Okay, so hello again, welcome. Good afternoon. Okay, so let's begin with this. Today we're going to check about the last uh, type of question in the speaking section. That is the question number 4, and that is the last integrated question we have. Okay. So if we remember the the 4 tasks we have checked, remember that we have 1 that is independent and 3 that are integrated. We have already seen question 2 and question 3. And for question 4, and it's kind of the same. We have to listen to a lecture about an academic topic, and then you have to sum up the topic and main points of the lecture. Okay, in both, you have to read the little thing, and the examples from the lecture you have to sum up. Okay, again, you have 30 seconds to prepare your answer, and then you have 60 to speak. Okay, so in all of them, we have 30 seconds to prepare and then 60 to speak. Now, if we compare, that in the question 2, you read, you listen to the conversation, and then you prepare. In question 3, you read, you listen to a lecture, and then you prepare, explaining the topic. And then in question 4, you have to listen to a complete lecture, and then you have to summarize the main points from that. And you're gonna take 30 seconds to prepare and then 60 to speak. Okay. We could say that this is the hardest one because we have to listen to a complete lecture, and the topic's a little different. Okay, so here you have to listen to a lecture on an academic topic. The good thing is that we continue with academic topics. The professor will introduce the topic, which will be divided in 2 parts. In each part, there will be some specific examples to illustrate and support the subtopic. Then when you had a question, the prompt, you will use the points and examples from the lecture and explain what is the topic about. You need to summarize. Okay. Now, we have different types of topics, and based on, we know that they are academic, we could divide in the philosophy, psychology, biology, business, and other ones like art, history, literature, sociology, and geology. So the more commons are psychology and biology. So here in psychology, we have topics like interaction, memory, experiences, how we process and respond to them, and also learning. In biology, we had a concepts, theories, facts about living organisms, their organization, life process, relationship, and adaptations. And for business, they talk about marketing. Okay. The more commons are these 2. Okay. Now, what is the structure for the lecture? You know that it has the same an introduction of the topic and its relation with the subtopics. You know that always at the beginning of a lecture or of a reading, the first part is always talking about the general idea. So we can identify what is the idea from the first part, the first paragraph, we could say. Okay. Then they start talking about the examples, and we can use as a subtopic 1, subtopic 2. Then they explain detailed with examples and facts that that topic in both. So what do you have to do? Two things. You have to identify the topic that is given in at the introduction. The topic could be stated in the question. Okay? Normally, remember in the previous class that we saw that in the title, you identify what is the general idea and then the definition of this title. So we could do the same here. Well, similarly. So even in the question, in the prompt, you can identify what is the topic they will talk about. They are asking. Okay, mostly than in the what you need to focus on. Then in the second part, you then identify the two subtopics and the details. Okay, so always divide your process in the first part. Let's say general idea. You set the context, and then you explain example 1 and example 2. Or we can say that subtopic 1 and the subtopic 2 explains examples and reasons of each. Okay. So in this part, you have to remember that you are reporting what the professor says. Something that is important is you are speaking in recorded speech. Okay, you remember how to use recorded speech? Yes or no? Someone can give an example of recorded speech?
I can. She said she liked ice cream.
Perfect. Okay, so when we report something, it's like Sarah, I like ice cream. Guillermo reports what Sarah said. Yes. She said she liked ice cream. Okay, we reported what she said. She said. Okay, when we reported. So the lectures have a structure very similar to reading paragraphs. In this case, when you see the writing essay, you will see that it's very similar to this. So maybe it's a good idea that you can listen these lectures so you can compare with your writing section, because it's divided in a similar part when you have in the 3 steps: introduction, examples and reasons, and conclusion. And you will find this lecture similar to this. When they set the context, they give the subtopics, and then they give a conclusion. It's similar to this. The structure is similar. Then you have a limited time to summarize as much as you can, but try to include some important details. Remember, as always, you have the countdown clock. So it's counting down for this. So when you're taking notes, again, you need to take only a few words or few phrases that you can copy very quickly to make your notes, because if you copy complete statements, it'll take more than that what is necessary. You don't have enough time. You have to copy just a few words. Okay, and that is in every section of the TOEFL. You don't have enough time to do it. So you have to be quickly and very accuracy to the topic that you need. Okay, very specific with examples. And again, this is related on your pace. Don't try to speak so fast. Speak with enthusiasm. When you explain things, remember when you don't know the topic, or when you are not confident about what you are saying, we usually speak fast, or we usually speak more slow than usual. So here is to identify things, identify the main context, to explain in a confident way, so you can explain normal, very very comfortable. When you speak so fast, sometimes when the listeners check the recording, it sounds very tricky. So sometimes they don't understand. So for that, you need to speak um, depending on your pace. If you speak a regular speed, it's okay. So I speak natural. The thing is that you have to speak natural. Okay. So let's see. Okay, now let's listen. Let's only listen part of the lecture. Okay, and try to take some notes. Try to identify what are the topics, the main topic and the subtopics. Okay, so let's listen. So we can see, we can check. Here we go.
Listen to part of a lecture in a business class.
Can you listen?
Yes, yes, I'm listening.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go.
If a consumer has to choose between two products, what determines the choice? Assume that someone, a purchaser, is choosing between two products that cost the same, okay? If people have a choice between two identically priced products, which one will they choose? They choose the one they think is of higher quality, of course. But what does it mean for a product to be a high-quality product? Well, business analysts usually speak of two major factors of quality. One factor is reliability, and the other is what we call features. So reliability. What's reliability? Well, a product is reliable if it works the way we expect it to work, if it can go a reasonable amount of time without needing repairs. If a product, a car for example, should and needs repairs too soon, we say it's unreliable. So product reliability means basically the absence of defects or problems that you weren't expecting. It used to be that when people thought about product quality, they thought mainly about reliability. Today, it's different. People do still care about reliability, don't get me wrong. It's just that manufacturing standards are now so high that, we'll take cars for example, today. Today's cars are very reliable. So reliability is important, but it's not going to be the deciding factor. So if reliability isn't the deciding factor anymore, what is? Features, all those extras, the things a product has that aren't really necessary but that make it easier to use or that make it cool. For example, new cars today are loaded with features like electric windows, sunroofs, air conditioning, stereos, and so forth. When people are comparing products today, they look at features because reliability is pretty much equal across the board. And that's why manufacturers include so many features in their products.
Using points and examples from the lecture, explain the two major factors of product quality and how their role in consumer decision-making has changed.
Okay, so could you identify what was the main topic?
The main topic was why a person can choose between two products. What are
Okay,
the decisive points?
okay, I don't know if you had a problem with the mic, but I can hear you correctly. It sounds like some
Okay. I'm going to.
So, but I hear you. Some product.
Hello.
Okay, better.
Yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
this material talks about how a person can choose between two different products. What is the decisive factor? Decisive factor.
Right. And what could be the two subtopics here?
Reliability and features.
Reliability and features, correct? Okay, so we could say, or we can see, that the main topic is about the product quality, right? Okay, as in how consumers make their choice. Here, the main topic is, or explains, about how can they decide choosing a product. Now, what are the factors that influence how? Now, as Valeria said, subtopic 1 is reliability and the future. The one, reliability, is the absence of problems. Product works as expected. Some details about that: car problems work, should last. In the subtopic 2, we identified we're talking about the features. There are things in products easier to use or cool, additional, not necessary. Some detail for that: air conditioning in cars. Now, what can we say in both? That's reliability in is the same now. Features is the most important now. So here we have notes from that lecture. Okay, so these characteristics you have to take in consideration when you are going to prepare your speech. Okay, with this you have already identified what are the main topic and the two examples that you had to mention in your speech. Okay. Now, when you prepare that you respond, you could use this template, starting your statement with, the lecture is about, and here you introduce how consumers make decisions about the product. Then after introducing the topic, the professor features two examples, and this and that. You explain that. And then you're starting with the first example, the first characteristic says, to start, the lecturer describes the first part is the reliability and explaining what's that, then which is, explain that, and for instance, you give instruction. Then the professor goes on to explain, to illustrate, she mentions, and give it that. So these expressions you can use to start to connect your ideas between each paragraph and each example here. Okay, so this one you can take a screenshot, copy, or I don't know, something you can write down in your notes if you want. Ready? Tell me when you're ready. Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, so let's do an example. Using this, let's listen again. Let's listen again, and we have to take notes. Well, these are the notes. If you want to take different notes, or you want to take another example, it's your decision. You can use this information to prepare your answer, including this connectors, these phrases. Okay, so let's listen.
Listen to part of a lecture in a business class.
If a consumer has to choose between two products, what determines the choice? Assume that someone, a purchaser, is choosing between two products that cost the same, okay? If people have a choice between two identically priced products, which one will they choose? They choose the one they think is of higher quality, of course. But what does it mean for a product to be a high-quality product? Well, business analysts usually speak of two major factors of quality. One factor is reliability, and the other is what we call features. So reliability. What's reliability? Well, a product is reliable if it works the way we expect it to work, if it can go a reasonable amount of time without needing repairs. If a product, a car for example, doesn't work the way it should and needs repairs too soon, we say it's unreliable. So product reliability means basically the absence of defects or problems that you weren't expecting. It used to be that when people thought about product quality, they thought mainly about reliability. Today, it's different. People do still care about reliability, don't get me wrong. It's just that manufacturing standards are now so high that, we'll take cars for example, today. Today's cars are very reliable. So reliability is important, but it's not going to be the deciding factor. So if reliability isn't the deciding factor anymore, what is? Features. All those extras, the things a product has that aren't really necessary, but that make it easier to use or that make it cool. For example, new cars today are loaded with features like electric windows, sunroofs, air conditioning, stereos, and so forth. When people are comparing products today, they look at features because reliability is pretty much equal across the board. And that's why manufacturers include so many features in their products.
Using points and examples from the lecture, explain the two major factors of product quality and how their role in consumer decision-making has changed.
Okay. Now, using this, let's prepare an answer. Let's prepare a response. You have 20 seconds. Right now, we won't use timer. Just prepare, and you can use this. So for this time, we'll listen to Valeria. Could you?
Okay, I can try.
Thank you. Tell me when you're ready.
Okay, now.
So remember, you had to speak 60 seconds. Okay. So ready, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. The lecture talks about how the consumer has to choose between two products that it costs the same. And the principal factor is the higher quality. And the higher quality, we can determine this um, in two factors. The first is reliability and the second is features. First, reliability, it's a product when it works how the customer expect to work. The lecture explained an example about a car. A car is unreliable when it needs to repair soon. And the second factor about higher quality is the features. The features is an extra things. For example, when some product is easy to use, and the lecture mentions the example the cars. Now the cars have different features, like the electric windows, and to conclude, manufacturers have to include more features than reliable products. No.
Okay. So you take 1 minute and 20. Okay. The 60 seconds ends when you start talking about the second example. Okay. Now, right now, because we don't have the timer here, right? Always like when we don't have the timer here, it's a little confusing. So let me give a timer. Very good. Okay, it was very well organized. Very good. Now, in the first part, you introduced incorrectly. You were saying the correct one. Now, the last part that it takes you 20 seconds more, it was the second example. That's why it takes more than the 60 seconds. Okay, but that's because you didn't see the timer on the screen, right? Okay. Okay. Now, this time you have to listen again and prepare in a piece of paper, wherever you have, um, this little map so it can help you. At the time of the TOEFL, when you're doing your exam, you won't have time to write complete words like this, okay? But you can use some letters. You can understand this, like the topic, you write a T, S1, one detail, S2, one detail. You can say, and you write some information. Okay, but you have at least have this organization. You have to identify what is the topic, what is the subtopic 1, subtopic 2, the subtopic, the detail for the subtopics. Okay. Bon appetit, Andrea. Okay, so let's listen.
Listen to part of a lecture in a biology course.
Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well, use them naturally in the wild without any human instruction. But when can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. And in fact, there are two competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the object's got to be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal or human so that it can be used that way. It's an object that's made. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nests, but most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick, for example. So the sticks have to be sharpened so they'll fit into the hole in an anthill or the insect nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down that way until it's the right size. The chimp doesn't just find the stick, you could say it makes it in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool, under the broad definition. But under the narrow definition, it's not because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way.
Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor.
Okay, so here we have example asking you to describe the two different definitions of tools. You need to mention the two tools of the professor was given. Okay, so this moment you must have already your topic, general topic, and both examples. In this case, the subtopics are the ones, the two different definitions of tools that they give, 1 and 2. For details, some more detailed examples from here. Okay. So in this one, we can see this is the okay. So look, this is the speech. This is the talk. You can see. I will give you 20 seconds so you can take notes. Okay. $20. 20 seconds starting. Well, I give you 30. So you can You can take notes. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Take notes. Time's over. Okay, and for this time, I want to hear to Mr. Pablo Alabiu.
Yes, okay. According to this lecture, the professor said that there is a question about an object. When is this object a tool? There is 2 points of view, the narrow one and the broad one. Definition about when an object is a tool. The narrow one talks about an object, very specific task, and without changing. Like, for example, the chimpanzees are using sticks for putting a hole and take out the food, or some animals, some little animals. That would be the example of the narrow one. And the broad one definition is an object performed by a task, but with modification. For example, the elephants, they use sticks in the ground for scratches his back. That would be an example. And it depends how do you see these theories. An object could be a tool. It depends of the viewer. That's it.
Okay, correct. You did 1 minute and 9 seconds. That's good. Very good. Now here we have this little template also that the listening is about. The lecture is about. So we can introduce, we can say different ways. We can use similar templates. After introducing the topic, the professor features 2. After introducing the topic, the professor features 2. Okay, the ways. Let's to start the lecture describes, which is, for instance, here the term. What is it? Dimension. Okay. So here we can identify. Now, what you could do if you have the opportunity to listen or to identify what are the words, what are the connectors here. Okay. So we can give the same connectors if you want to. So here it says human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well. Use them naturally in the wild without any human instruction. But we say that an object is a tool? This question, when can we say that an object is a tool? This question introduces what is the topic about, and you can use it also. But if you think that makes it a little strong, your introduction, you can use it. It says, but you can start saying it. When can we say that an object is a tool? So you could sound a little more professional. No? So, well, it depends on your definition of a tool. Here, instead of saying depends on your definition of a tool, you can say introduce the idea from here and say the professor features 2 examples. The professor features 2 definitions of that, and you start explaining it. Now, Now, till here, do you have any question?
No, it's clear for me.
So far. Okay. So let me open. The internet's very slow. When you're introducing, remember, when you're giving an example, here in this section, that is the question number 4, you only have 20 seconds to prepare. I mean, 30 seconds to prepare, okay? But when they start, like the lecture, sometimes it takes like 1 minute, the easiest, or it could be about 3 minutes or even longer. Okay. Okay, let's listen to this. Okay, let's prepare your notes.
Now listen to part of a lecture in a sociology class.
Let's consider the way sociologists use the terms culture and society. A society is a distinct group of people. A sociologist would say that people in a society are defined by their social interactions and the culture they share. Meanwhile, culture itself can be defined as that society's shared knowledge, beliefs, and expectations. Often people think of a society as something really, well, big. And sure, that's true. An entire nation, for example, will generally have some common thread of culture that defines it. The most obvious example is that citizens of one region generally speak a common language. But think about behavioral standards too. Like, what's considered polite or impolite? Whereas in one country you might be expected to take off your shoes as the guest in another's home. In other countries that might be considered strange. Cultural traits like that can extend over enormous populations. But a society can also be much smaller, much simpler. Take this class. Aren't we a society? We have social interactions with each other every week. And I think it's fair to say we have a culture of a sort too. Think back to what happened on the second day of class. Do you all remember? I'd missed my train and didn't have any way to let you all know that I'd be late. But in contrast to other classes, where students might have just headed home 15 minutes after the planned start time, each and every one of you waited the full 30 minutes it took me to arrive. That kind of set expectations, right? It laid the foundation for a culture of patience, something I think is still true of this particular group, this little society.
Using points and examples from the lecture, explain how a society can be a large group of people or a very small group.
Okay, here we're going to focus on 2 things. It can be large or very small. Okay. For that, remember you have this little template. You'll have 20 seconds to prepare. Okay, here we go. Start preparing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, who hasn't participated? Guillermo, right? No.
Me? Hello?
Have you participated?
I participate. But I
Who
can do
hasn't?
it again. No problem.
Okay. do it. So you have 60 seconds to speak. Ready? 1, 2, and 3.
This lecture is about how two concepts of society can be understood. After introducing the topic, the lecture features these two ways of understanding society. In one hand, we have a way that we see society as a big thing, like we have common language. The professor used an example of what is polite or unpolite in different places. In the other hand, society can be small, like in the example of the teacher. The class can be a society, and use example of when she missed a train and everyone wait for him.
Okay, good. So in this case, you had a timer, so you can see it, and it was very good. It was structured. Let's see. Okay, let's see a little explanation of that video or that question.
The professor here defines a couple of things, some actually very common terms, society and culture, very important words, and talks about some examples. This is very typical for task 6. So you're going to use those examples and you're going to explain that definition. We have in our notes, these are my notes, actually this nice structure of the definition, and then one example and another example. Maybe your notes aren't so structured. If that's the truth, then that's okay, because you have 20 seconds to structure your notes. And in that time, you will find what is the main idea. What is the professor describing or defining? And what is the first main example? And what is the second example? Sometimes these aren't really separate examples. They might be separate details. So I should actually change this to just make it detail or detail. But still, we're going to think about the main concept, the main idea that the professor is explaining, and then how those details or examples explain the main idea. So in my notes, that's pretty easy to do, but you should look for these in your notes too. Find the main idea, which is culture and society, or the meanings of culture and society. And then how a big society can have a shared language, and this stands for behavior. These are my notes. Remember that your notes can be as short or as long as you want, especially this C here stands for culture. Now, they can have a shared language or behavior, and for example, some people in some cultures leave their shoes off when they enter a home, and some people don't. Some people keep their shoes on. And then there's the other example of the class waiting for the professor in a small society, in a small culture. So there are really two things here. There's culture and society, and there's big society and small society. But if you focus on this too much, you might lose the main point. Really, this professor is talking about the definition of culture and society. And yes, how that works in a big situation, and also how that works in a small situation. But more importantly, what is the definition, and how do these examples relate to that definition? So we have the main idea here, and then we have example 1 and example 2. All right, now I'm going to give an answer that will take 60 seconds, and I'm going to touch on all of those main points. In his lecture, the professor defined culture and society as they are used by sociologists. And specifically, he talks a lot about how culture, or having a common culture, sort of creates a society. It defines a society. For example, in a very large society, like a country, and people might share the same culture with the same language or with similar behaviors, like, for example, in countries where people take their shoes off before entering their homes, compared to other countries where they don't. Or, in even smaller societies, the professor points out that the class is a society because they share social interactions and they have this experience of waiting for the professor, and that made them patient, and they share that patience together as a group. Okay, so there, it wasn't perfect because I didn't give every single detail that the professor mentioned, but I summarized all the most important parts. And as long as that summary is clear and the main details are included and the language is correct, that's all you need for a perfect score.
Something that you need to take in consideration also is the way you speak, the intonation you give when you are speaking. Okay, as you listen this person, how rises the voice when it introduces something, and that's why in the explanation I told you, don't speak fast, but speak enthusiastic. Now you have to give those intonation, like you rise the voice, you go down, you give that intonation as using exclamation and things. So that's something important when you are giving your speech. Okay. So to finish today, please answer this little survey that appears on your screen. Okay, thank you. And I don't know if you have any question.
Now it's clear for me.
Okay.
Everything.
We have the calls you are assigned to me. So we have to schedule when you want to start doing your calls. We have the time on Monday and on Saturday. Okay, and let me show you the time. So you can start with the calls, with the practicing one by one. Just you and I. Let me open this. Okay. Let me show you. Who prefers on Monday and who prefers on Saturday? It's in the afternoon.
Excuse me, at what time in the afternoon?
And from 7, let me show you the schedule. Here, it's opening. Here. Have this open already. Okay, I have this open. This is Bolivia time at 7 p.m. From 7 to 7:20, it's open. At 8:20, from 8:20 to 8:40, it's open. This is on Monday. And on Saturday from 7:20 to 8, or from 9 to 10, all in the afternoon. So,
Excuse me, teacher. Is it 9 p.m.?
yeah, at 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Okay, I would choose the 9 to 9:20.
On Saturday.
Yes. Thank you.
Teacher,
Yes.
it could be in Monday, 8:20 to 8:40, please.
Yeah, that's correct. And Guillermo?
Monday, 7 o'clock.
7. Okay, correct. And please send me a WhatsApp. Well, I do have in your group. Yeah, don't worry. I will include you in the WhatsApp group where I give you the link, because they are Zoom sessions. They last 20 minutes each. So I'm gonna give you the link on this Saturday for Pablo, and on Monday for the two of you. Okay. So
Okay.
you have 6 sessions with me. Okay, so 6 sessions. They are gonna be 6 weeks. Okay. So thank you so much, and I will see you next Thursday.
Okay, bye, teacher.